but they couldn't give me a definite answer on that. Just said that I was not a target.
You were not a target?
That's right.
They said, why didn't you meet before the grand jury?
They're in there with somebody else right now.
They're in there with somebody else?
Yeah.
Do you know who it is?
I don't know who it is. I was the last legislator.
And so what did they come out and tell you?
Well, I met with a couple of FBI agents, and they asked me a series of questions for about 45 minutes about different lobbyists, if I was offered anything, which I told them I was not, and basically just history of bingo bill, and just said that I was not a target. And
What lobbyists did they mention?
I'd rather not get into that.
Well, other lawmakers have come out and mentioned names like Fine Getty and Claire Austin and
Coker.
Were those names mentioned to you?
I'd rather not get into the names mentioned.
Do you know anything about any vote buying, any allegation of any quid pro quo going on in the legislature with that bingo vote?
I don't have any knowledge of any quid pro quo or any vote buying.
Well, what took up the 45 minutes?
Just, they have a series of questions they have to ask first about, your name and how old you are and everything.
Well, certainly that didn't take up 45 minutes.
That takes 6 or 7 minutes, but then they ask questions about different lobbyists, the history of the bingo, particularly down in my area where Country Crossings is, and a number of questions dealing with Country Crossings.
You voted against the bingo bill, didn't you?
We didn't have a vote in the House.
Oh, that's right. What am I thinking?
Mm-hmm.
That's right. I forgot.
Are you on tourism?
You're not on tourism.
I'm not on tourism.
Would you have voted for it?
Well, that's a hypothetical question because it was never brought up.
And you don't want to say?
Well, I was going to vote for the BIR to bring it up.
But what about the bill?
Well, we'd have to just see what kind of amendments and what kind of amendments would be brought up and how it would affect the bill, how it would affect my area in particular.
Was there any conversation at all about lobbyists having to work on you in order to get you to come over to make sure you voted for the bill?
No, they just asked me questions about, lobbyists, but I really didn't have that many lobbyists talking to me about it. Mainly it was just constituents down in my area that was, and of course their calls may have been generated by lobbyists.
So even though you were not sure how you would vote on the bill, you still were not approached by any lobbyists, even though that you could have been a yes or no vote?
Well, I just said I don't know exactly how I would voted for the BIR to bring the bill up.
But you didn't know how you would vote on it.
Well, we just see what, when the amendments came up, what kind of amendments were put on and what kind of arguments were put. If the bill had been brought up, it would have been certainly some vigorous debate for hours and hours in the House, and there may have been some arguments put forth that I might not have thought about.
Well, the bill that passed in the Senate. Mm-hmm. What would you have voted for that bill?
Well, I've told.
You're not going to give me a yes or no.
I've told people repeatedly there's only two ways to solve this problem in the state, and that's either a statewide constitutional amendment to be voted on by the people that will supersede all these local amendments, or either a decision by the Alabama Supreme Court. So that was our one chance there in the legislature, and of course the legislative option's off the table now.
So you would have voted for the people having a right to?
I'd like to have voted for the people who have a right to vote on the right bill.
Did you hear any cell phone recordings?
No, I did not.
He did not go before the grand jury. He just went. So when do you have to go? What did they tell you about going before the grand jury?
They told me they didn't know if I would or not. That if I did, it might be in the next 3 or 4 weeks. So they would have to let me know. But at this point, I'm not a target, and I was excused to go.
Excuse me, I'm late for this. You didn't get before the grand jury. Why?
There's someone else in there. It's not a legislator. I don't know who it is.
That's interesting. Okay.
So they just interviewed you like on the side? Or?
They took